Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Beyond Second Cognition. I'm Endall Beall. The topic of this discussion is the event for sensitive spiritual people. This is aimed at all of you folks that are sitting there waiting on this event to take you away to the new Earth because the planets are lining up on one side of the sun, or whatever other doctrinal reason you have been told. Now, because of your sensitivities and because so many of you can't stand a four-letter adult word, I'm going to keep this down to the level of your emotional capability to understand dealing with your dark side. So many of you in the spiritual arena talk about confronting your shadow self and how awake you are. And many of you are talking about programming and how you feel that you have transcended programming of the mind virus. And I'm here to tell you nothing could be further from the truth. Now, if you're adults and you think you know something, then let's see if you have the courage to listen to the truth that's presented in this presentation. The fact of the matter is that the event is just another contrived, escapist scenario. Such scenarios like the 2012 shift in consciousness were there in order to generate an emotional response by people that know how to harness your emotions and use them as weapons against you. You see, emotions generate energy. And when they can create high expectations, it generates one type of energy. And when the disappointment occurs from the non-event, like the 2012 Mayan calendar disappointment, it creates more emotional energy because of the disappointment and the crushing defeat because the anticipated event didn't occur. So the people out there that know how to harvest energies, your energies, and turn them against you, know how to play you on these emotional roller coasters. And people keep buying it. They keep getting their expectations up, and your energies are being harvested from the expectations. And then you get disappointed when the event doesn't occur. And this has happened time and time again over the ages. The return of Christ, 148 different predictions of Jesus coming back, never happening. And we've had equally as many with the Galactic Federation of Light and Ashtar Command and all this other stuff. But they keep playing the same card because people keep falling for the bait. And every time you get your anticipation built up with one of these escapist ideologies, they take your energies because you feed it to them. You give it to them willingly. And then the disappointment sets in when the event doesn't occur, and the crushing disappointment of being let down creates more energy, which you give them again, and they feed on your energies. Now, you folks talk about being energy sensitives and all of this stuff. How many of you have figured this out? That you're being played like a fiddle, that your emotions are their tyrannical food supply. And then when you consider that, ask how much of this tyranny, this energetic feeding frenzy, that you personally are contributing to. I'm going to give all of you a hard look in your own mirror, and let's see if you have the courage enough to face what I'm about to share using civil language and logic and reality. The Hapim mind virus infected every human on this planet. You are not exempt from it, no matter how much the residual habits of your own mind virus convince you that you are. You are not as awake as you think. You may be aware of part of the conspiracy that has been fed to you by people that want you to see a part of it, to keep you fear-driven on one hand, and to drive you into their escapist nirvana events on another. You were totally reactive, and you were totally psychologically dependent and predictable through these circumstances. And for those that want to know how predictable you are, you might want to read my book, The Psychology of Becoming Human, How to Transcend All Psychological Conditioning. But you need to get through this video first. I'm not here to promote a book. I'm here to hold up a mirror for you to look at your own inner tyrant, your own virus habits. And see, a lot of you spiritual people, you want to criticize Christianity, and that seems to be very big in the spiritual marketplace. Last time I looked, Christians weren't out in mass blowing up people like the Muslims are. So why are you criticizing Christianity so much but not criticizing Islam? Why do we have this certain Christian focus, this anti-Christian focus, versus anti-Muslim focus? Because the Muslims are the ones that are, with their martyrs doing the most violence in the world today. So first off, ask yourselves that question. Why do you have this dichotomy? Why do you want to criticize one without criticizing the other? Because, I see plenty of responsibility on both sides there. But see, many of you want to blame the world situation on the Christians. You don't like how the Christian West has imposed its ideas on you. But look in the mirror, folks. You're doing the same thing. You're trying to impose your spiritual will on the rest of the world. You want to stand there in the same kind of self-righteousness that the Christians do, thinking that you are blameless, that you are enlightened, that you are awake, and you have the ticket to heaven, to the ascension, to the new earth, to the event. Tell me how you are any different in your self-righteous mindset as a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or any other religionist. The fact is, you can't. You can deny it, but you can't refute it. And see, that's what this is all about. It's about showing you that you have the same Hapim virus habits still ruling your psyche that all these other people do that you criticize and detest. So all you're wanting to do is replace their tyranny with your tyranny. All you folks sitting there going to mass meditations and the event and throwing out love and light, it's none of your business. By throwing this stuff out, by trying to get everyone to walk in lockstep with your event ideology, where are you any different than Christians? Trying to find their converts. And just like Christians, if someone offends your self-righteousness, your own virus infection programming, all you can do is call names. Well, you used a bad word, so we shouldn't. You're angry. I'm not angry. I just know what's going on, and I know where the rubber hits the road. And while many of you sit there and talk about programming, you don't even see the programming present in yourself. You don't see the petty tyrant of your own shadow self, no matter how much your deluded ego residuals have convinced you that your poop don't stink. Because, folks, you're just as guilty as the people you criticize. You're just as self-righteous and delusional as the people you detest. And you're so wrapped up in your own self-programmed delusions that you don't see it. All you can do is cast aspersions and not take ownership for your own petty tyrant inside your own mind. The self-righteousness of being the chosen ones to transcend to the new earth. And, oh, well, you're not deserving to go because you used a 4-letter word. How self-righteous is that, people? I mean, seriously, look at yourselves. Before you start casting aspersions, and it's just as Jesus said, before you want to talk about the splinter in my eye, you better remove the 2x4 from yours. And folks, I'm here to tell you, every one of you's got a 2x4 a mile long in your own eyes and your own self-righteousness, thinking that you're deserving of some escapist event. So I sit on the sidelines and I watch all these people walking around with their 2x4s in their mind, throwing around energies like they have the infinite right to trespass those energies on other people. Well, it's love energy. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to believe, you can sit on it and eat it. But you got no right to throw that stuff out on other people. You have no right to be any more self-righteous than a Christian in your self-presumed, ego-infected correctness of mind, because you're all petty tyrants. You want the world to conform to the way you see it, just like the Christians, just like the Muslims. And until you can acknowledge this shortcoming in yourself, you're not looking at your shadow self. Your shadow self is lying to you to convince you that everything's hunky-dory, that only the elite are deserving of the new earth. And where is that any different than Christians and their rapture idea, or Muslims going to heaven? Give me one dime's worth of difference between that mentality and the tyrant mentality that you're expressing here, folks. I don't care if you believe in the god or the goddess or the flying spaghetti monster. You're all petty tyrants trying to impose your will, your ideology on other people. And if they don't happen to agree with you, then all you can do is call names. That's very adult. You want to look at your shadow self? I just held up the mirror to show you your shadow self. And until you man and woman up enough to look in this mirror and see that you're just as guilty of the trespass offenses against humanity that all of these other religions, politicians, conspiracy-driven monsters are doing, you're deluded. You're a part of the problem. You are contributing to the enemy. You are the enemy by buying their doctrines and pushing yourself on other people. You all profess unconditional love. Everything you think about love is conditional. Well, you have to believe the way that I do, or we're going to leave you behind when we go to the new earth. How conditional is that, people? Tell me how unconditional your love is with that type of elitist mindset. Because you all possess it. You all think that you're ultimately deserving because of the doctrine you embrace. Where is that any different than any other religion? Where do you feel that you have the right to impose your will on others or chastise others because they don't agree with you? But every one of you does it. Every one of you has a tyrant within your head just like everybody else. And every one of you is feeding your own inner tyrant, your own inner shadow, by buying this stuff and listening to that shadow self tell you about how special you are, how special your goddess is, or your religion, whether it's Wicca, New Ageism, quasi-Buddhism, theosophy, I don't care. It's all cut from the same cloth, folks. And you're too blind to see it. There is nothing that I find more laughable than people talking about, oh, all the programming, and they can't see the programming of their own mind virus in their own actions. You thrive on confirmation bias. All you want is whatever makes that ego tyrant, the virus tyrant habits in you make you feel good. And this elevates you and puffs up that ego tyrant to where you feel that you are better than everybody else. Personally, I don't care if the people that are playing your emotional fiddle play you like a fiddle. Because as ignorant as you are, based on all of this I'm better than they are ideology, and you're no different than the rest, you are the enemy. You are perpetuating the tyranny of trespass on this planet. And your own inner virus habits have you up on that pedestal because it makes you feel good. It plays your emotions to control you. And if it can make you feel good, it can bolster your own sense of self-righteousness beyond measure. And this is where all of you are functioning. This is the programming within you that you can't see. You claim to see the programming in others and how they have transcended it, but you don't look in your own mirror, folks. You get spoon-fed a diet of Jungian psychology about the shadow self, and your shadow self is staring you in the face every time you look in the mirror, and you're too blind to see it because of your shadow self's self-righteousness and its self-gratifying sense of feeling good and feeling superior. Oh, we're the only ones deserving to go to the new earth in the event. So, I have used civil language, and all I have done is present you with truth. And I was nice about it. And see, this should show you something. It doesn't matter how nice you present the truth is ugly. And it doesn't matter how many flowery words you use or how you dance around the daisies, because the truth is always going to bite. And until each and every one of you is willing to admit this truth, you're nothing but puppets on somebody else's string. And the main puppeteer in all your heads is the residual mind virus habits that you think in your arrogance you have all transcended, while it's the virus habits talking to your consciousness. You are prey to a false king, and you have deluded yourselves listening to the voice of the man behind the curtain and not listening to yourself. By avoiding the hard truth and seeking escapist notions. The event, the 2012 shift in consciousness, the rapture, folks, it's all the same stuff. And the only people that are going to continue to buy it are those that refuse to listen to the truth, no matter how nicely it is put out. And that's all I'm doing, is I'm putting out the truth. I can't help what it is. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm explaining the situation. Now, if you are so emotionally sensitive, so spiritually sensitive, that you can't take a conversation delivered in a civil tone with logic, then your inner tyrant has you by the throat. And it's your problem. But by spreading it everywhere, you're trying to make it everybody else's problem too. But the controllers that crank you up with the expectations and steal your energies with the letdown, they're perfectly content to keep selling you this stuff. They know there's not going to be an event. They know there's no second Earth waiting to be populated by doctrinaires of love and light and false compassion and all this other kind of stuff. They've got you by the throat too. But your own inner tyrant has you so utterly convinced that they're telling the truth versus someone like me that's really telling you the truth, that I'm negative for telling you the truth, and they're the ones you should listen to for yanking your feel-good chain. But hey, you know, it's your life, it's your expectations, it's your disappointment, and you can keep chasing expectations and disappointments until you decide to grow up as a human being and see through this stuff. Until you do, you're puppets on their string, and you're puppets on the string of your own internal mind virus habits, your own residual lying false persona. And that's the way it is, folks. It's as gently as I can explain it, and I didn't use one four-letter word in the whole discussion. So let's see how smart you are. Let's see if you are intelligent enough to take the truth laid out gently, without ruffling your sensitive spiritual feathers. Because if you can't face the truth, then you deserve the lies. For those of you doing the work, stay the course. Don't give up on yourselves.